Today we're starting a tour, and we're going to be exploring several states. We'll be in Washington, Idaho, and Montana, and we're going to visit several ghost towns along the way, and we'll split this up across several videos. But this is the first one, so come along with us and we'll take you through Winthrop, Washington. We were walking down the wooden sidewalks here in Winthrop, and we came across this board. You just don't find lumber like this anymore. I mean, look how big this thing is. It's probably a good 16 inches wide, 1 inch thick.
Look at these sidewalks. They're actually made out of wood planks. They're kind of uneven, but it kept the mud off of the feet. Thank you. Homemade huckleberry heaven. Love it. Hey, let's see what the inmates are doing. Oh, it's a view to the miniature golf. We gotta go check out the hats.
In 1984, I came through here on a trip with my grandparents, my dad, and my brother and my sister, and the town was probably not quite so busy as it is today. But I do remember this. Behind there's Winthrop Motors. That was here. The paint's a little bit faded from what it was then. And then over here are the old gas pumps from the 1960s and 70s.
Oh, doesn't that water look refreshing? Saw some interesting buildings, yet again, and it's a museum.
Here's the Powder magazine. This is the museum up on the hill right above Winthrop. Those look like gold sparkles there. Welcome to the powerhouse. This is where they would make all the mechanical motion, where they would make the machine return. So if you look down here, you'll see this gigantic electric motor. That motor would turn this big cotton belt and would turn these big wheels and make a shaft rotate. That way they could transfer power anywhere they needed. And they could take off power at any time just simply by putting another wheel on and another belt. How about this Frankenstein switch right here? Would you like to operate that? A lot of this stuff has been sitting in the weather for years and has really deteriorated bad, but look at some of the artifacts here. There's a section of track right there where you can have a junction and send your cart down two different ways. And this is some kind of a cart, and pulling that cart is this ancient bulldozer. How old do you think this bulldozer is?
It's about 1935 sometime.
Wow.
It's pretty old.
Yeah, I'll bet it would still run with a little work. Here we have an old air compressor. Here's an old air raid siren. This truck here is a Model A Ford that was cut down and modified heavily for use on the mining trails and mining roads and other places that they went to. But check out the interior here.
"1920s Worthington air compressor." It's pretty amazing. Look at these old rubber wheels. Hey, they're solid. I didn't know they made solid wheels. Look, slag from a furnace. And wooden pipes. Look how they've chamfered it so you can put them inside each other and keep the water flowing. And rail lines. Afraid to touch it, it might tip over or something. Look at these wheels. That's pretty amazing. Solid cast iron, it feels like. And what's this? Another air compressor. That's a much bigger wheel. 1903 for small mining operations.
We found this enormous bandsaw. Can you imagine driving one of these for a living?
Little schoolhouses everywhere. Oh, this is a schoolhouse. Oh, it's really dark in here. Look at this. They've got little desks too. May 19th, 1891. Wow.
If you want a good read, pause your screen right now and read this stuff.
Don't go in there. No, let's go. No.
Old switchboards.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we know that.
Put it in the military in a real situation.
There's some telephones here and over here on the wall. It's a 1948.
Just talking to you.
Same.
I hope you
Take care.
keep meeting nice people.
Yes, thank you. I do. Thank you. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Don't sit me in that, and then we're all good.
Okay.
Where are you guys from?
Seattle.
Seattle area, yes. Don't know.
So what is this place?
Well, outside said blacksmith, but I'm not believing it. It looks more like the newspaper or the typeset. An office of some kind. There's a lot of office equipment in here. And typesets for a newspaper.
Yeah, this was the town's newspaper press. I'm sorry, it's not the press, it's the linotype machine.
Behind here are the typesets.
So back in the old days, they would press the keys in a sequence to make the line of type, and they would pop down through this elaborate works, and then they would make a lead casting, and the lead casting is what they would put into the printing press, and then they would roll out newspapers. This is an example of lead type that they would have used on the printing presses.
Now they do digital.
Okay.
That's a camera right there. Yeah, this is the actual printing press right here. So here's an example of a typical home of the day, but I wanted to show you how small this door is.
Can you see everything inside? The ceiling does go up a little bit when you step down. My lands, they weren't very tall, were they?
No, they weren't.
Imagine having to lean over all the time. This is a real cabin, not a replication. This cabin was built in 1889, and a family of 4 actually lived in it. Yes, they had 2 small children, but they lived in it. I cannot imagine living in something like that nowadays. This must be the courting wagon. One newspaper described coach travel this way. Don't imagine for a moment you are going on a picnic. Expect annoyance, discomfort, and some hardships. If you are disappointed, thank heaven. Oh my lands.
This is a 1920s era road sign. It has reflective lenses in it. This one here is from the 1880s, before they became motorized. We were talking with one of the museum volunteers a few minutes ago. She said that this used to be a huge apple growing region, but then one year they had a freeze that was so bad that it literally busted the trees. I mean, it froze them to the point where they split, and they all died, and that was the end of their apple growing industry. But here are some remnants of it. Right here is a boxing machine from back in the days when they used real wooden boxes. This machine would put the lid on it. And then back over here is some sorting machinery. This building here is a representation of the doctor's office, and there's all kinds of neat stuff here. There's bottles and jars of various things, which shall remain unknown at this point. Over here we have an x-ray machine. A wheelchair. Various other pieces and parts. And I spotted something else that was kind of interesting here. We have Bueller oil. Back in the old days, there was all kinds of technical quackery that was invented, and this looks like one of them here. It seems to be some kind of a power supply unit with leads that, oh, who knows, maybe it was made for shock therapy or something.
This is Guy Waring's house. He built it in 1891, I believe. Kitchen dining room space. It's a pretty good sized space for that time.
So you think this is pretty compact for a cabin? Well, there's a whole lot more. Well, this is the kind of place I'd like to live.
I think this would be the living room, and this was probably walled off to make a bedroom back there for everybody, but I don't know because I don't see any bedrooms or doors.
Yeah, probably. There are several musical instruments in here too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna build us a cabin?
Yeah, when we retire off of YouTube.
It's a plan. I'll take it. Well, look, there is a door behind the piano. Maybe that's where the bedrooms were. That would make sense. This is the other half of the cabin. I expect to see bedrooms in there. Oh, well, there's one, so maybe they had another bedroom in there for the children. It's a pretty good sized bedroom, too, for them. Now I see why they considered it a castle in those days.
We found an outdoor bathtub. A giant,
Washing kettle.
Yeah, a giant washing kettle. And look at this. Every house needs a unicycle.
There's some bikes down here too. They're pretty cool. I have that one in there and that one there.
It almost looks like a modern day Seattle bike sculpture.
It does. Keeping up appearances. Grandma's laundry. You got steps here and they're crooked, so be careful. That's it. Don't get too close to that edge, you're going to hit your head. Looking at all this stuff, it's all rusted and the wood is starting to rot and it dries out real bad. Cracks and everything, it's all fading. But then over here we have this enamel. It is still beautiful and pristine. Wonder how long that'll last. Probably quite a long time considering it's not made out of this natural fibers.
This is the entire cabin. Here is some antique clothing and dolls and things for you ladies out there who might be watching this.
The assay office.
You see that thing up there on the countertop? That is a moonshine still. This is the old assay furnace that they used to melt down the gold in.